On an island forgotten by maps and hidden on the horizon of the Indian Ocean, there is a paradise where the beauty of its landscapes and the warmth of its people are so intense that they envelop visitors in charms and temptations that are difficult to resist. In this new video from Uncensored World, we will learn more about the Comoros Islands, one of the least known and visited countries in the world, but also one of the most enigmatic and fascinating on Earth. A Muslim-majority African country where women choose their husbands and rule the household. This power may be related to the sensuality conferred by the world's most prized aphrodisiac flower, used in luxury perfumes or rituals such as msidzano, in which a paste is applied to the skin as a symbol of seduction. An archipelago of 4 islands, where thousands of fugitive slaves had to hide to survive, transforming this place over time into one of the most unknown and fascinating paradises on Earth. A magical enclave in the Indian Ocean, chosen over the centuries by Africans, Arabs, Persians, Hindus, and Europeans, which has given rise to one of the most beautiful cultural and racial mixes on the planet. A beauty that is reflected both in its landscapes and in its women, especially on one of its islands that we will soon discover, where many claim that the most beautiful women in Africa live for various reasons, many of whom are attracted to Latin American and Western tourists. A country known as the Land of Volcanoes, as it is home to several, including what is considered the most active volcano in the world, with monstrous eruptions that occur on average every 11 years. A forgotten country that still preserves ancestral traditions, such as holding the most expensive weddings on the continent, known as grand mariage, rituals with human skulls, and beliefs in demons called Genies, which supposedly possess people and influence their behavior. Pay attention and don't miss this video, because we assure you that discovering the Comoros Islands with Uncensored World will surprise you. Let's get started. Located between Madagascar and the coast of Mozambique in the middle of the Indian Ocean lie the Comoros Islands, an African country lost in time and on the map, one of the least known and visited destinations in the world, but also one of the most beautiful, sensual, and surprising. This archipelago is made up of 4 main islands known as Grande Comore, Moheli, Mayotte, claimed by France, and the seductive island of Anjouan, believed to be home to the most beautiful women in Africa. Although many people have never heard of these islands, the Comoros have everything to enchant those who dare to discover their secrets. This archipelago is full of pristine beaches, tropical rainforests, active volcanoes, and a cultural mix so powerful that it seems straight out of a fantasy novel. But what really makes it special is not just its postcard-perfect landscape, but its history steeped in mystery, resilience, rituals, unique traditions, and beautiful women. Over the centuries, the Comoros was a strategic point for traders and pirates, chosen by Arabs, Africans, Persians, Hindus, and Europeans as a refuge and desirable territory. This diverse mix of peoples and ethnic groups created a unique identity, giving rise to one of the most exotic and beautiful racial mixes on the planet. The Comoros was known for centuries as the Slave Islands, not only because it was a refuge for those fleeing oppression, but also because of the epic history of the Maroons, fugitive slaves who escaped from the plantations in chains, finding a place to be reborn in this archipelago. Centuries ago, thousands of men and women escaped from the coast of Africa, crossing unknown and often deadly seas in search of freedom. In the Comoros, they found a refuge where they threw off their chains and founded secret settlements among the volcanoes and dense tropical vegetation. The term cimarron comes from Spanish and was used to describe those who escaped into the jungle, fighting for their freedom in remote and unknown territories. In the Comoros, these cimarrones not only survived but thrived, leaving their mark on the culture and identity of the archipelago. These brave fugitives not only escaped slavery, but also brought with them a rich, vibrant, and diverse culture. Over the years, the Cimarrones mixed with Arab communities, Bantu ethnic groups and traders from the region, creating a unique identity that still endures on the island. It was they who, by founding these clandestine communities, ensured that their history would not be forgotten, passing on their traditions through the generations. These African slaves have a lot to do with the fact that ancestral traditions are still maintained in the Comoros, such as the belief in demons called Genies, sensual dances, and rituals performed with human skulls, which you will learn more about later. The influence of these maroons can also be seen in the music, dance, and other local legends that are still proudly recounted, and probably has a lot to do with the empowerment of women, since in a predominantly Muslim society that maintains traditions such as polygamy, it is often women who are in charge here. This mixing of blood has given rise to a population of unique beauty, especially visible on one of the most charismatic islands of this archipelago, known as Anjouan, or the Island of Beautiful Women. On this island, many claim that the most beautiful women in all of Africa live here, a beauty that seems to be due not only to the ancestral mix that gives its population dark skin with golden hues, delicate features, and a natural elegance, the result of centuries of fusion between Bantu and Arab genes, but also to a fascinating legend. Many in the Comoros claim that the beauty of the women of Anjouan goes beyond genetics. Among the many local legends, there is one that tells how an ancient god or spirit, known as Kuzaima, blessed this island with a special gift so that its women would be the most beautiful in the world. It is said that this god, falling in love with the purity and elegance of the island's inhabitants, granted them a supernatural grace that would be passed down from mothers to daughters for all eternity. That is why on the island of Anjouan, this beauty is considered not only a physical gift, but rather a spiritual gift, linked to secret beauty rituals passed down through the centuries. It is no coincidence that this island has become famous not only for its idyllic landscape, but above all for its people. The majority religion in this country is Islam, a religion brought by Arab traders centuries ago. Since then, Islam has been an essential part of everyday life on the islands, shaping customs, some as controversial as that of men having multiple wives, as well as celebrations and even architecture. But despite what one might assume given this reality, power in many Comorian households lies with women, not men. This female freedom is as fascinating as it is unexpected. In this country, women are usually in charge, although often from behind the scenes. That is why women control the family economy, decide on the most important household matters, and above all, choose their husbands. The choice of husband in the Comoros Islands does not depend on the man, but on the woman. It is she who decides whom to marry, based on her own judgment and compatibility with her interests and values. This practice has its roots in a social structure that gives women considerable power over their lives, a power that is reflected in the way the family is organized. The decision to marry is linked to these women's autonomy to choose what they consider best for their future, including their happiness and economic well-being. However, as you know, Comorian society is Muslim, and there are realities that seem incompatible with this power of women, such as polygamy, a practice accepted here that allows a man to marry several women. You may wonder what power women can have in this society if realities such as polygamy exist. But as you will now see, this system does not work in the same way as in other cultures, where men decide how many wives they will have. In the Comoros, polygamy only occurs if all the women involved agree to the situation. In other words, women also have the final say in this matter and can accept or reject the idea of sharing their husband with other women. On these islands, if a woman does not agree to her husband marrying another woman, the proposal is rejected outright and does not go ahead. Thus, although this practice is legal and possible, whether or not it takes place depends on the woman's choice in the decision-making process. This female control over key aspects of family life, including marriage and relationships, is a deeply rooted tradition in this forgotten corner of the world. In this society, Women not only manage households but also shape personal and family destinies within their community. All of this has to do with the fact that one of the most peculiar ceremonies on the African continent also takes place here: the grand mariage, considered the most expensive wedding in Africa. In this ancestral ritual, a couple, mainly the man, must spend a fortune to demonstrate their commitment, status, and respect for their culture. That is why the grand mariage is not just any wedding, but a majestic event that can last several days, during which livestock is sacrificed, food is offered to hundreds of guests, and jewelry and even houses are given away. The grand mariage is so important that without this act, a man cannot aspire to political office or earn the respect of his community. These weddings are said to be the most expensive in all of Africa, and the curious thing is that many Comorians go into debt for years just to be able to fulfill this rite of passage, which is mandatory in this community. As you will now see, the origin of this tradition is as ancient as it is fascinating. For centuries, in a society where lineage was passed down through the maternal line, family prestige was not measured solely in land or livestock, but above all in the ability to honor the women of the clan. This is how the grand mariage came into being, not only as a spectacular and expensive ceremony, but above all as a symbol of social maturity, commitment, and consolidation of respect within the community, especially towards women, who are considered the heart of the home and the heritage. Furthermore, it is believed that in ancient times, when the Comoros were key points on the Indian Ocean trade routes, marriage alliances also served to weave networks of influence between powerful families, many of them with Arab, Persian, and African connections. The grand mariage thus became a way of displaying power and commitment. Banquets lasting for days, sparkling jewelry, exotic perfumes, ritual dances, and gifts that showed that the family was capable of offering the very best. Over time, this ceremony became so important that no man in the Comoros could aspire to a position of political importance unless he had celebrated his own grand mariage. It was the ultimate social passport. But the women of the Comoros not only choose their husbands, or are the main reason why ceremonies such as the grand mariage are held, they also influence family and community decisions, and are even responsible for preserving ancient rituals such as the msidzano, a beauty treatment using a white paste made from sandalwood and coral, a symbol of sensuality in the Comoros. This natural mixture serves as a sunscreen and cosmetic, but it is also a symbol of purity and feminine coquetry that is often applied on special occasions, such as when there are important visitors, or when one intends to seduce. It is an intimate and cultural form of expression that reflects the pride of Comorian women in their identity and beauty. This feminine power is not only felt in the home, but also drives the local economy, as many women in the Comoros lead businesses, cultivate land, and even manage shops, especially those selling traditional products such as the Yangylang Flower. This flower is a natural aphrodisiac with an intoxicating aroma and has been the best-kept secret of the world's most exclusive perfumes for decades. In fact, iconic brands such as Chanel have used this flower in their most emblematic fragrances, such as the legendary Chanel No. 5. It was precisely this aphrodisiac flower that years ago propelled these forgotten islands onto the world stage, giving them unexpected prestige and surrounding them with an aura of exoticism, sensuality, and elegance that still lingers today. The Comoros stands out as the world's largest producer of ylang-ylang, a flower that has become the object of desire of the great fragrance houses of Paris, Milan, and Dubai. These houses compete to obtain its purest essence, which they often achieve thanks to this natural wonder that only grows in this unique corner of the world. Comorian women apply it traditionally to their skin and hair, giving them an intense floral scent that lingers even when they sweat. This natural and enveloping aroma is considered in the country as a symbol of sensuality and feminine distinction. The power of women on the islands is so extensive that it even extends to property management. In this country, when a man marries, he does not take his wife to his home, but rather moves into hers. In many cases, Women inherit land, decide on child rearing, and manage the most important family matters. This silent matriarchy has shaped generations of Comorian women, strong, beautiful, discreet, but deeply influential. It is not uncommon to hear in the villages that the man speaks, but it is the woman who decides, a saying that could possibly be extended to many other countries in the world, and we would like to ask you for your opinion. Do you think women have the final say and it's best not to try to change that? What's your take? We'd love to hear from you in the comments, so thank you. On these islands, female power is also expressed in a subtle but powerful way in traditional dances that take place mainly at weddings and celebrations. Among the best known is the Maulida Shangay, a dance in which female bodies glide in soft, rhythmic movements accompanied by ancient chants. This choreography is a sacred and sensual language that communicates desire, power, and ancestral connection. Often only selected men are allowed to witness it. The rest must imagine what is happening, as if it were a sacred secret. For all these reasons, many travelers are surprised to discover that this natural sensuality in the Comoros is not provocative, but part of a deep identity, linked even to spirituality. In the Comoros, where aphrodisiac plants such as Yangylang flourish and women perfume their skin with essences that awaken the senses, there are many who believe that there is a supernatural force behind such beauty. Some elders say that long ago, when a stranger looked at a Comorian woman with desire, the men of the village did not see it as lust, but rather as demonic possession. They said that Genies, which is the name they give to invisible spirits and demons with intense and often evil desires, could slip into men's bodies and manipulate their emotions. These genies, present in the oral traditions of African Islam, are an essential part of the Comorian imagination. These jinns, jealous and passionate, are believed to fall in love with human women, especially those who exude beauty and natural sensuality. It is not uncommon to hear stories of women who claim to have had intimate dreams with spirits, feeling invisible caresses during the night. Some even claim to have been possessed by jinns in love who could not tolerate flesh and blood men around them. To protect themselves from these invisible entities, rituals are performed by shamans who know the secrets of the occult. Some of these rituals include skulls, volcanic stones, and sacred perfumes. These rituals are often performed in private and inside caves, far from prying eyes, combining Islamic prayers with deeply African ancestral formulas. In the most secret corners of the Comoros Islands, rituals are still practiced that seem to come from another time or another world. Some of the most disturbing are related to jinns, invisible spirits that, according to tradition, can possess, seduce, or torment humans. In certain villages, when a person suffers from inexplicable symptoms, such as extreme mood swings, uncontrollable sexual attraction, or prophetic dreams, the elders do not hesitate in their verdict, believing in most cases that there is a genie inside. To expel or calm it, they turn to shamans who still know the secrets of ancient magic. Among their tools are amulets, seashells, aphrodisiac oils, and bones or skulls, including human ones. These skulls are placed on makeshift altars, surrounded by Yangylang flowers, bathed in sandalwood smoke, and spoken to as if they contained the soul of an invisible protector. These rituals are not tourist shows and are not openly displayed. They take place in closed houses, volcanic caves, or next to sacred trees. Only a few have witnessed them. But those who have seen them speak of an atmosphere as dense as it is magical, where the scent of flowers, the sound of chants, and the presence of these bones create a kind of portal to another reality. In the Comoros, everything seems to have a soul. The plants, the women, the perfumes, and even the volcanoes. That is why these islands are also known as the land of volcanoes, as they contain a unique volcanic geography, composed of dramatic landscapes sculpted by seismic activity over thousands of years. This small archipelago in the Indian Ocean has 3 active volcanoes, which not only shape the terrain, but also the lives and mysticism of its inhabitants. The most famous of all is the Karthala volcano, located on the island of Grande Comore. This natural colossus not only dominates the island's skyline, but is also considered the most active volcano in the world in recent decades, as it erupts regularly every few years. The violent eruptions of fire and ash have generated equal parts fascination and fear, making Carthala one of the most iconic spots in this magical country. The summit of Carthala is not just any volcanic peak. There, fumaroles emit sulfuric gases that create a landscape as mysterious as it is disturbing. These clouds of steam emerging from the depths of the crater not only announce the constant life of the volcano, but also give the place an otherworldly atmosphere, as if one were walking on the surface of a remote and mysterious place. Despite the latent danger, many adventurers and nature lovers climb to its summit to admire the grandeur of the landscape and feel the force of the earth in its purest form. The contrast between the green, fertile fields and the arid, steaming terrain of Carthala is breathtaking. And as if all this were not enough to envelop the Comoros in a halo of magic, even its name has an equally fascinating origin, coming from another world, or rather, from an asteroid. The word Comoros comes from the Arabic term Qamar, which means moon. It is believed that ancient Arab sailors, observing the archipelago from the sea, noticed that the main islands, when viewed from above, resembled a crescent moon floating above the waters of the Indian Ocean. A perfect metaphor to describe a place that, to this day, seems more like a lunar dream than a country of this world. At this point, and before learning why some Comorian women and men feel a special attraction to foreign tourists, we would like to ask you, would you like to visit the Carthala volcano, or would you prefer to stroll around the island of beautiful women in Anjouan? What do you think about the power of women in the Comoros? Would you like to try the Yangylang Flower, or would you prefer to dance the sensual Maulida Shenge dance? What has impressed you most about the Comoros Islands? Pause the video and leave us your comment. You know that doing so is the best way to support Uncensored World, helping us to continue working to bring you the best content. In addition, it will be great to read your comments so that we can all get an idea of the diversity of realities among us. So thank you. The Comoros Islands are located in an incomparable natural setting, surrounded by the crystal-clear waters of the Indian Ocean, a paradise where natural beauty remains unspoiled and virtually untouched. This archipelago offers a variety of unique landscapes, from turquoise lagoons to stunning coral reefs that are home to an enviable marine biodiversity, making it a dream destination for divers and nature lovers. Among the highlights is Moheli Island, which has been declared a marine reserve for its rich fauna and flora, and is known for its crystal-clear waters and pristine beaches. Here, tourists can swim with dolphins, snorkel among the corals, and watch sea turtles nesting on its shores. Grande Comore is the largest island in the archipelago, and is also home to some of the most breathtaking landscapes in the Comoros, such as the Carthala volcano, the most active and one of the largest in the world, from whose summit visitors can enjoy panoramic views of the ocean and the entire archipelago. In addition, the slopes of this volcano are covered with tropical rainforests, full of endemic flora and rare species found only in this remote corner of the planet. But despite the beauty of both its natural surroundings and its people, the Comoros remain a relatively unknown destination, making them a hidden gem for travelers seeking less explored places. According to data from the World Tourism Organization, the Comoros receive less than 5,000 international tourists per year, a surprisingly low figure when compared to other more popular destinations in the Indian Ocean such as the Maldives, the Seychelles, or Mauritius, which receive millions of visitors annually. Several factors contribute to this low number of tourists. At the end of the video, we will go into more detail about each of them, as Uncensored World will help you discover the best way to visit and enjoy this remote paradise. One of the main factors in being recognized as one of the least visited countries in the world is its geographical isolation. The islands are far from the main tourist routes and do not have direct flights from major international hubs. In addition to this, the tourist infrastructure on the islands is limited, with few accommodation and transport options, which makes travel more complicated and sometimes more expensive. Added to this, the lack of international promotion and general ignorance about the Comoros, both in the media and among major travel agencies, means that many people do not even consider or know about this destination. As if this were not enough, the Comoros faces internal economic and political challenges that also limit its development as a tourist destination. The country has gone through periods of political instability, which has affected foreign investment and tourism promotion initiatives. Despite these challenges, the Comoros maintain an unspoiled beauty and authenticity that increasingly attracts adventurous travelers seeking a destination that is exotic and unique in the world. While tourism on the islands has yet to reach the levels of more well-known destinations in the Indian Ocean, the calm and authenticity of the Comoros attract those who want to escape the crowds. White sand beaches, volcanic mountains, and unspoiled landscapes invite tourists to enjoy nature in its purest form, a luxury that is increasingly rare in the modern world. This relationship between the Comorians and their environment is reflected not only in their landscape, but also in their architecture. The traditional houses on the islands are built from natural materials, such as volcanic stone and palm trees, creating a unique aesthetic that is simple yet deeply connected to nature. This architecture does not seek to impress with luxury, but rather to blend seamlessly with the environment, reflecting a simple yet meaningful way of life. Each home seems to breathe the same fresh air that fills its beaches and mountains, and is a testament to a life that is respectful of the environment. In some more rural areas, especially on the smaller islands, a tradition that has endured for centuries is still practiced: the concept of the harem, where a man can have several wives. Although this practice has been declining due to external influences and the passage of time, it remains part of the social structure in certain areas. The roots of this custom lie in the historical need to strengthen family alliances and ensure the continuity of local dynasties, an aspect that is part of the rich and complex Comorian culture, a tradition in which, as you now know, it is the woman who has the final say. But perhaps the most fascinating thing about the Comoros Islands is the attraction their inhabitants feel for the few tourists who manage to reach their shores. In this archipelago, sensuality is not just a physical trait, but a spiritual force that, as you now know, is even present in nature and its flowers. In the Comoros, beauty is not worn, it is radiated. This can be seen in the perfumed skin, in the gentle movements when walking, in the gaze that unwittingly captivates you, in the dances, and in the color of the people's skin. Perhaps that is why the few tourists who manage to reach these islands and discover their secrets end up mesmerized, not only by the postcard-perfect landscapes, crystal-clear waters, and volcanic beaches, but often by the Comorian women themselves. Combining strength and sweetness, mystery and warmth, they have a surprising way of connecting with foreigners. These women and men love meeting people from outside, above all because they represent a window on the world, a spark of novelty on islands where everything changes very slowly. An increasingly common curiosity these days is that many young Comorian women are fascinated by foreign tourists. Some learn phrases in French or English just to seduce and get to know travelers, with conversations full of mischief and intelligence. In more than one case, a curious traveler has ended up falling in love, not with the islands, but with a glance, a laugh, a gesture, or a perfume. Because in the Comoros, exoticism goes both ways. At this point in your journey, you're probably wondering how best to enjoy this paradise to the fullest, finding out how to get there and the different options that make the Comoros not only a beautiful destination, but also one of the most affordable places on the African continent. The best months to travel to the Comoros Islands are from May to October, when the climate is drier and temperatures are more pleasant. During this period, rainfall is less frequent, making it easier to access the main tourist attractions and get around the islands. It is also when the sea is calmest, making it the best time for activities such as diving and snorkeling. As you know, despite its unspoiled beauty and unique atmosphere, Getting to the Comoros Islands is not easy, and it is precisely this lack of tourist infrastructure and means of transport that contributes to its isolated nature and continues to make it one of the least visited and least known places in the world. The Comoros Islands are relatively far from the main international tourist routes, which makes access not so direct. Currently, the most common way to get there is by plane, but options are limited. From Europe or the United States, you will usually have to stop at a major hub airport, such as Dubai or Addis Ababa, before continuing on to the Comoros. There are no direct flights from Europe or the United States, which means a longer and less accessible journey. There are very few airlines flying to the Comoros, and flights are not always regular, making logistics equally challenging. Access from Europe or the United States generally involves a combination of flights with stopovers in places such as Dubai or Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and it usually takes more than 2 flights to get there. Once on the African continent, travelers can take flights to Prince Said Ibrahim International Airport, located on the island of Grande Comore, which is the main point of entry into the country. From here, it is possible to move to the other islands by more limited means, such as boats or ferries. As for visas, citizens of most Western countries, such as the United States and the European Union, need to obtain a visa to enter the Comoros. The visa can be obtained upon arrival at the airport and is relatively inexpensive, costing around $100 for a short stay. It is important to check the exact requirements before traveling, as these may vary depending on nationality. Once on the islands, getting around can be tricky due to limited infrastructure. Roads in some areas are impassable, especially during the rainy season, which generally runs from November to April, with the rainiest months being between January and March, so public transportation is not always reliable. Taxis are an option, but it is recommended to negotiate the price before setting off. In some more remote areas, it is advisable to hire a local guide who knows the terrain well. It is not considered a dangerously risky place for tourists, but it is always wise to find out about local conditions and follow safety recommendations. In terms of prices, the Comoros remains an inexpensive destination compared to other countries in the Indian Ocean. A simple dinner at a local restaurant can cost between $5 and $15. Accommodation varies depending on the area and type of establishment, but a night in a mid-range hotel ranges from $20 to $50 per person. The main language of the Comoros is Comorian, although French and Arabic are also spoken, which facilitates communication with international tourists. Although English is less common, you can find some people who speak it in the more touristy areas. While it is not essential to have a guide to enjoy the destination, having one can enrich the experience, especially for exploring the more remote corners and gaining a better understanding of local traditions. As you have seen, the Comoros Islands are a somewhat more difficult destination to reach than many others in the world, a difficulty that helps to preserve their authenticity and allows travelers to discover a hidden gem full of natural beauty, traditions, and culture. At Uncensored World, we hope this video has helped you discover the Comoros Islands, as you have seen, one of the most fascinating and unknown gems on the planet. If so, don't hesitate to leave us a like and a comment. It's the best way to help us continue working every week to bring you content as interesting as this. Or like this video you can watch now, to discover another of the most mysterious and beautiful places on Earth. Click on it. You're going to enjoy it.